The year was 2187. Humanity had spread across 7 star systems. On New Terra, the third and most populated human colony, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the clean streets of Capital City. Zoe Washington walked with a quick step. Her school bag hung over her shoulder, filled with quantum physics notes. At 15 years old, she stood out among her peers, not just because of her dark skin in a colony that was still mostly pale-skinned settlers, but because of her brilliant mind. "See you tomorrow, Mrs. Garcia," Zoe called back to her tutor as she left the education center. "Remember to finish the quantum probability homework," the older woman replied with a smile. "You're making excellent progress." Zoe nodded and continued her walk home. The route took her through the government district, where humans and Mavarians worked side by side. The Mavarians were the reason humans survived after Earth's climate collapsed. They had welcomed the desperate refugees when other alien species turned them away. Zoe admired the tall, slender forms of the Mavarians as they moved with graceful steps. Their skin shimmered with a blue-green tint that reminded her of the oceans in old Earth photos. Her parents, Richard and Diane Washington, were xenobiologists who studied Mavarian biology. Because of their work, Zoe had grown up learning both human and Mavarian languages. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small disc-shaped device. It glowed with soft blue light when she touched it. The Mavarian communication tool had been a gift from her parents' research partner, Tolvex. He had taught her how to use it for simple calculations. Technically, Colonial Regulation 47B prohibited humans from using Mavarian technology without special permits, but her parents assured her it was fine for educational purposes. Zoe didn't notice the police cruiser that slowed behind her. She was too busy entering a complex equation into the device. "Hey, you there, stop," a harsh voice called out. Zoe turned to see a colonial police officer stepping out of his vehicle. His name badge read, Officer K. Bradley. His face was set in a hard frown. "What are you doing with that alien tech?" he demanded, marching toward her. "It's just a calculator, sir," Zoe explained, holding up the device. "My parents work with the Mavarians. I have permission to—" "Put it down now," Bradley ordered, his hand moving to his stun baton. "That's illegal tech for humans, especially for kids." "But I'm not doing anything wrong," Zoe said, confusion clear on her face. "My parents are Richard and Diane Washington, the xenobiologists at the research center. You can call them to confirm." Something darkened in Bradley's expression. Zoe noticed his eyes narrow as he looked at her skin, then at the Mavarian device. "I said put it down!" he shouted, now grabbing her wrist. "You're hurting me!" Zoe cried out. The device fell from her hand to the sidewalk. What happened next occurred so fast that security cameras later had to slow the footage down. Officer Bradley, claiming he saw the device emit a threatening flash, struck Zoe across the head with his baton. The blow knocked her to the ground. As she fell, the neural interface port behind her ear, standard for advanced students, struck the edge of the sidewalk. Pain exploded through Zoe's head. The world turned blurry. She could hear Officer Bradley calling for backup, claiming a juvenile was resisting arrest and using alien technology as a weapon. Unknown to both Zoe and Officer Bradley, someone else witnessed the entire incident. High Diplomat Silnara of the Mavarian Council stood just 10 feet away, her body hidden by Mavarian cloaking technology. She had been on her way to a meeting when she noticed the human girl using a Mavarian calculator. Curious, she had stopped to observe. What she saw filled her with horror. The Mavarian Human Treaty strictly prohibited violence against either species, with special protections for young ones. This officer had clearly violated those rules. More concerning was the injury to the girl's neural port. Silnara could see the damaged connection even from where she stood. 2 more police cruisers arrived. Officers stepped out, looking confused, at the scene of a young girl lying on the ground with a small Mavarian device nearby. She was using illegal alien tech, Bradley explained to his colleagues. Refused to comply with orders. One of the officers, a woman with dark hair pulled into a tight bun, knelt beside Zoe. "She's just a kid, Bradley, and she's hurt." "Call for medical," the woman ordered. Her badge identified her as Captain Alicia Hernandez. "The device is just a calculator," Captain Hernandez said after examining it. "Not exactly dangerous." Zoe tried to speak, but the pain in her head made it difficult. "My parents. Call my parents." Captain Hernandez nodded. "We will, honey. Just lie still." Within minutes, a medical transport arrived. The medics carefully placed Zoe on a stretcher. One of them examined her neural port with concern. "There's damage to the interface," the medic said quietly to Captain Hernandez. "These ports connect directly to the brain. She'll need immediate attention at the Colonial Medical Center." As Zoe was loaded into the transport, Captain Hernandez turned to Officer Bradley with cold eyes. "My office, immediately after your shift, ends. This doesn't look right." Officer Bradley shrugged. "Just doing my job. These colony kids think they can break rules because their parents work with the aliens." Unseen by any human, Silnara slipped away from the scene. This incident required immediate attention from the Maverian High Council. She activated her own communication device, sending the recorded evidence directly to First Ambassador Tevlor aboard the Council vessel orbiting New Terra. At the Colonial Medical Center, doctors gathered around Zoe. The neural damage was significant. Without proper treatment, she might lose the mathematical abilities that made her exceptional. Her ticket to the prestigious Saul Academy of Advanced Sciences. "Call her parents," the head doctor ordered a nurse. "And inform Captain Hernandez. This is more serious than a simple head injury. The neural pathways have been compromised." Outside the medical center, the sun set over Capital City. Lights from Maverian and human buildings created a beautiful glow against the darkening sky. But aboard the Maverian vessel in orbit, First Ambassador Tevlor watched Silnara's recording with growing concern. The peace between their species, carefully built over 30 years, might be threatened by one officer's actions. Justice would need to be swift and clear if the alliance was to survive. The Maverian High Council vessel hung in orbit above New Terra like a jewel. Its curved blue-green hull reflected the light of the nearby sun. Inside the main chamber, First Ambassador Tevlor watched the recording from Silnara with growing concern. "Play it again," he said, his tall frame leaning forward, his four-fingered hands pressed against the viewing table. The holographic display showed the incident once more. Officer Bradley striking young Zoe Washington, the neural port damage, the false claims about resistance and weapons. "This is a clear violation of the treaty," said Silnara. The child was using a simple calculator. Even if it was against their regulations, the response was extreme. Tevlor nodded slowly. His skin shifted colors, showing his distress with flashes of deep purple. "The Treaty of 2156 is very clear. Violence against minors of either species is forbidden. What do we know of this girl? Her name is Zoe Washington. Her parents are the xenobiologists who work with our medical teams. She is known to our people. Very bright. She has been accepted to the Saul Academy for her mathematical skills. And those skills may now be damaged," Tevlor said, his voice low. "The neural port connects directly to her mathematical centers." The council room fell silent. For Maverians, mathematics was sacred. Their entire culture was built on numerical harmony. To damage a gifted mathematical mind was among the worst crimes in their culture. "We must respond," said another council member. "Yes," agreed Tevlor, "but we will wait and observe the human response first. This is their chance to show us their justice works." Back at the Colonial Administration Building, Captain Alicia Hernandez sat at her desk, reviewing security footage of the incident. Her face grew darker with each viewing. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Officer Bradley entered, still in uniform, but now off duty. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" "Sit down, Bradley," she said, her voice cold. "How long have you been stationed on New Terra?" 3 weeks, transferred from Alpha Centauri. "And in those 3 weeks, have you bothered to learn anything about our relationship with the Maverians?" Bradley shrugged. "They're aliens. They let us live here. What else do I need to know?" Captain Hernandez pointed to her screen. "You need to know that the girl you struck today is Zoe Washington. Her parents are leading xenobiologists. That calculator you claimed was a weapon? It was given to her by a Bavarian scientist for her studies. She was breaking Regulation 47B, Bradley said stubbornly. Educational use is permitted under Section 12 of that same regulation, the captain replied. But that's not the worst part. Your excessive force caused damage to her neural port. Do you understand what that means? When Bradley didn't respond, she continued, It means you may have destroyed the mathematical abilities of one of the brightest young minds in the colony. It means you attacked a minor without cause, and it means you violated the treaty with the Bavarians. For the first time, Bradley looked uncomfortable. I was just doing my job. No, you are acting on prejudice. I've reviewed your record from Alpha Centauri. 3 complaints of excessive force, all against citizens with darker skin or those working closely with aliens. The office comm unit beeped. Captain Hernandez answered it. Captain, the Washingtons are here to see you, said the front desk officer. Send them in. Richard and Diane Washington entered the office. Their faces showed the strain of the past few hours. Diane's eyes were red from crying. Captain Hernandez, Richard began, his voice controlled but tight with anger. We've just come from the medical center. Our daughter may have permanent neural damage. Mr. and Mrs. Washington, please sit down, Captain Hernandez said. She gestured to Bradley. This is Officer Bradley, who was involved in the incident. Diane Washington looked at Bradley with disbelief. You struck our 15-year-old daughter for using a calculator? It was alien tech, Bradley said defensively. A calculator given to her by our research partner. Richard's voice rose. We work with the Bavarians. Our daughter has grown up learning from them. The doctors say the damage might affect her mathematical abilities, Diane added, her voice breaking. Do you know what that means? She's been accepted to the Sol Academy because of those abilities. It's her future. Captain Hernandez tapped a button on her desk. 2 security officers entered. Officer Keith Bradley, you are relieved of duty pending an investigation. Please surrender your badge and weapon. Bradley stood up, shocked. What? You can't do that. I just did, Hernandez replied. The evidence is clear. You used excessive force against a minor without cause, potentially causing permanent damage, and violated treaty regulations. The security officers will escort you home. You are confined to quarters until further notice. As Bradley was let out, Captain Hernandez turned back to the Washingtons. I promise you we take this very seriously. Justice will be swift. It's not just about justice for us, Richard said. This could affect relations with the Bavarians. They value mathematical ability above all else. To them, this is like attacking a sacred person. At that moment, Captain Hernandez's comm unit beeped again. Captain, there's a message from Earth. The Galactic Parliament has been informed of the incident. Representative Gregory Stewart wants to speak with you immediately. On Earth in the Great Hall of the Galactic Parliament, Representative Gregory Stewart paced in his office. As head of the Human-Alien Relations Committee, he understood the seriousness of the situation. How bad is the diplomatic situation? He asked his aide. 3 alien civilizations are watching closely, the aide replied. The Bavarians welcomed us when others turned away after Earth's climate collapse. They see this as a test of our justice system. Stewart nodded grimly. And the girl's condition? Doctors are attempting to repair the neural damage. The Bavarians have offered their medical expertise. Make sure they get whatever they need, Stewart ordered, and inform New Terra Colonial Administration that I want daily updates on the WAM investigation and trial. This officer must face justice quickly and publicly. Back on New Terra, Zoe lay in the medical center, surrounded by human and Bavarian doctors. Her parents sat by her side. The damage is significant, but not impossible to repair, said the lead human doctor. With the Bavarian neural regeneration techniques, she has a good chance of recovery. A Bavarian healer placed a glowing device near Zoe's damaged port. The girl is strong. Her mind fights to maintain its connections. This is good. Outside the medical center, a crowd began to gather. Humans and Bavarians stood together, holding signs in both languages. Word of the incident had spread quickly through the colony. The peace between their species, built over decades, now rested on how swiftly humans would bring one of their own to justice. 24 hours after the incident, Officer Keith Bradley sat alone in his small apartment. The walls of the colony housing unit felt like they were closing in. His badge and weapon had been taken. Security officers stood outside his door, not to protect him but to make sure he didn't leave. His comm unit beeped. The face of his lawyer, Patty Wilson, appeared on the screen. "Keith, I've got news," she said, her expression serious. "Captain Hernandez has activated the Colonial Accountability Protocol." Bradley frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you're being formally arrested and the case is going straight to trial. No waiting period, no long investigation. The evidence is considered clear enough for immediate action." "They can't do that," Bradley protested. "I have rights. I need time to build a defense." "The Colonial Accountability Protocol was part of the treaty with the Mavarians," Patty explained. "For certain violations involving cross-species incidents, especially with minors, justice must be swift. Officers will arrive within the hour to take you to the detention center." True to her word, 30 minutes later, a team of colonial officers knocked on Bradley's door. Captain Hernandez led them personally. "Keith Bradley, you are under formal arrest for the assault of a minor, violation of treaty regulations, and abuse of police authority," she stated officially. "You will be held at the Colonial Justice Center until your trial, which begins tomorrow morning." As the officers led Bradley away, neighbors watched from their doorways. News had spread quickly. Through the colony, most faces showed disapproval. Bradley had hoped for support from fellow humans, but found none. At the Colonial Administration Building, the Mavarian High Council representatives arrived for a special meeting. First Ambassador Tevlor and diplomat Silnara walked with graceful steps into the human government building. Colonial Governor Frank Porter greeted them with a formal bow, showing respect for Mavarian customs. "Distinguished representatives," he said, "we deeply regret the incident involving the Washington child. I want to assure you that we are taking this matter with the utmost seriousness." Tevlor's skin rippled with colors showing cautious approval. "We are pleased to see the Colonial Accountability Protocol has been activated. Swift justice honors our treaty." "The trial begins tomorrow," Governor Porter confirmed. "Captain Hernandez has gathered all evidence, including diplomat Silnara's recording. We invite Mavarian representatives to observe the proceedings." Silnara spoke up. "How fares the young mathematician?" "Zoe Washington is showing signs of improvement," the governor replied. "The combined human and Mavarian medical teams are working well together. Her neural pathways are responding to treatment." "This is good news," Tevlor said. "The harm to a developing mathematical mind troubled our entire council deeply." As the meeting continued inside, the crowd outside the building grew larger. Hundreds of humans and Mavarians gathered in the plaza. They held signs in both languages. "Justice has no species. Protect our children, all of them." The atmosphere was not angry but determined. The crowd remained peaceful, united in their call for accountability. News outlets from Earth and other colonies broadcast images of the gathering. The sight of humans and Mavarians standing together made a powerful statement across the galaxy. In the medical center, Zoe opened her eyes. The pain in her head had decreased. Her parents sat beside her bed along with a Mavarian healer. "How do you feel?" her mother asked, squeezing her hand gently. "Better," Zoe replied. "My head doesn't hurt as much, but things feel different." The Mavarian healer, Kelnav, moved a scanning device over Zoe's neural port. "The pathways are rebuilding, but they follow new patterns. This is normal in neural regeneration." "Will I still be able to do math like before?" Zoe asked, fear evident in her voice. "The brain is wonderfully adaptive," Kelnav explained. "Your mathematical abilities may work differently, but they will return. The combined human-Mavarian therapy is showing excellent results." Richard Washington looked at the Mavarian healer with gratitude. "We can't thank you enough for your help." "No thanks are needed," Kelnav replied. "Your daughter's mind is precious to both our peoples. And I must tell you, the response of your colonial authorities, has impressed our council. Officer Bradley's swift arrest shows humans are committed to justice. The next morning, the Colonial Justice Center was filled to capacity. The trial of Keith Bradley had drawn attention from across the colony and beyond. Human and Maverian observers sat side by side in the gallery. Reporters from Earth and other colonies positioned their cameras. The three judges entered, 2 human and 1 Maverian, as specified by the Treaty for Cross-Species Cases. Bradley sat at the defense table with his lawyer. At the prosecution table, Captain Hernandez represented the colonial government. "This court is now in session," announced the chief judge. "Keith Bradley stands accused of assault against a minor, abuse of police authority, and violation of treaty regulations." Captain Hernandez presented the evidence first. Security camera footage showed the incident from multiple angles. Medical reports detailed Zoe's injuries. Bradley's service record revealed previous complaints of excessive force. Then came the most damning evidence. Diplomat Silnara took the witness stand. Her testimony was translated for the human audience. "I was present, though unseen due to our cloaking technology," she explained. The girl was simply using a calculator. She identified herself and offered to call her parents for verification. Officer Bradley chose violence without provocation. Silnara then presented her recording of the incident, captured by Maverian technology. The high-definition images and audio left no room for doubt. The court could even see Bradley's facial expressions change when he noticed Zoe's skin color. When it was the defense's turn, Bradley's lawyer tried her best. "My client believed he was enforcing Regulation 47B regarding unauthorized alien technology," she argued. "He felt threatened when the device glowed." "A glow that your client described as threatening only after the fact," pointed out the Maverian judge. "The recording shows no signs of him feeling threatened before striking the child." "Furthermore," added the chief human judge, Regulation 47B, Section 12 explicitly permits educational use of Maverian technology. The Washington girl was within her rights. The trial continued through the day, but the outcome seemed inevitable to all observers. The evidence was overwhelming. By evening, the judges were ready to announce their decision. "Keith Bradley, this court finds you guilty on all charges," the chief judge declared. "Your actions violated both human law and our treaty obligations. You will serve 5 years in the rehabilitation facility, where you will study Maverian culture and undergo prejudice deprogramming." As Bradley was led away, the crowd outside cheered at the news. Justice had been swift and clear. The message to the galaxy was unmistakable. Humans would hold themselves accountable, even without external pressure. Back in her hospital room, Zoe watched the verdict announcement on her screen. A small smile formed on her face as she turned to her parents. "Maybe something good will come from this after all," she said softly. News of Keith Bradley's swift arrest and conviction spread across the galaxy faster than light. On planets and space stations throughout known space, beings of different species watched the events unfold with great interest. In the Grand Observation Hall of the Arcturian Collective, tall crystalline beings studied the recordings from New Terra. The Arcturians had been hesitant to form close alliances with humans. They remembered Earth's violent history and feared humans would bring their old conflicts to the stars. "Fascinating," said Grand Observer Zilla, her crystal form catching the light. "The humans delivered justice against one of their own without delay." "It is unexpected," agreed Elder Triz. "Their history suggested they would protect their own kind, especially those in positions of authority." "Perhaps they have evolved beyond our expectations," Zilla suggested. Similar conversations happened among the insectoid members of the Proxima Confederation. Their ambassador Krizitk called for an emergency meeting of their high nest. "We have watched humans with caution since their arrival in our sector," Krizitk said, mandibles clicking as he spoke. "Their treatment of different groups within their own species made us doubt their readiness for galactic community. But this incident shows progress." On the Maverian homeworld, High Counselor Vernox prepared to address the galactic community. As the senior leader of the Maverians, his words carried great weight. The speech would be broadcast to all allied and neutral worlds. Vernox stood before the transmission array, his tall figure draped in formal robes that rippled with changing colors. The broadcast began. To all civilizations who share this galaxy, with us, he began, we witness an important moment in our shared history. When humans first arrived in our system, refugees from their damaged Earth, many doubted their capability for true justice. They carried with them ancient prejudices we found disturbing. His skin shifted to a thoughtful blue shade as he continued. But today we witnessed something profound. Humans held themselves accountable without external pressure. When one of their authority figures harmed a child, a girl with darker skin, from a group that faced historical injustice in their past, they did not hesitate or make excuses. They activated their justice system immediately. Vernox's voice grew stronger. This speaks to an evolution of consciousness that interests us greatly. The humans demonstrate they can change, can grow beyond their troubled past. For this reason, the Maverian High Council proposes expanded cooperation with humanity and invites other civilizations to reconsider their stance toward this young species. Back on New Terra, Zoe Washington continued her recovery. 3 weeks had passed since the incident. Each day she worked with both human doctors and Maverian healers on neural regeneration exercises. The medical center had become familiar to her. She sat in the treatment room as Kelnav, her Maverian healer, adjusted the neural stimulation device connected to her port. "Try the equation again," Kelnav encouraged. Zoe focused on the mathematical problem displayed on the screen. It was complex, quantum physics, the kind she had excelled at before the injury. For a moment, panic rose in her chest. The familiar pathways in her mind felt different, rerouted. "I can't," she began, then stopped herself. "No, wait." She closed her eyes, letting her mind explore the new neural connections. "It's like the numbers are in different places now, but they're still there." Her fingers moved across the input pad. The solution took shape, following a different pattern than before, but arriving at the correct answer. "Well done," Dr. Susan Bennett, the human neurologist, said with a smile. "Your brain is creating new pathways. Different route, same destination." Zoe looked at the completed equation. "It feels strange, like I'm thinking in a new language." "In a way, you are," Kelnav explained. "The damaged pathways forced your brain to find new routes. But these new connections might offer possibilities the old ones did not." Dr. Bennett nodded. "We've seen cases where neural reorganization leads to new cognitive abilities. Your mathematical thinking might become even more innovative." Hope flickered in Zoe's eyes. "So I might still have a chance at the Sol Academy?" "I'd say your chances are excellent," Dr. Bennett assured her. "Your recovery progress is remarkable, and the Academy has been following your case closely. They're quite impressed with your resilience." Later that day, Zoe's parents came to take her home for the weekend. After 3 weeks of daily treatments, she was now allowed to sleep in her own bed, returning to the medical center only for daytime therapy. As they walked through the medical center lobby, they noticed a crowd gathered around a viewing screen. News from Earth played on the display. "The diplomatic impact of the New Terra incident continues to grow," the reporter was saying. Today, representatives from the Arcturian Collective arrived on Earth for the first official diplomatic visit in 5 years. Sources say they were impressed by humanity's swift justice in the Bradley case. The screen showed tall crystal beings entering the Earth Diplomatic Center, greeted by Representative Gregory Stewart. Additionally, the reporter continued, the Proxima Confederation has reopened trade negotiations that have been stalled for 3 years. Analysts believe these developments mark a significant improvement in humanity's standing in the galactic community. Richard Washington put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Looks like your case is changing things beyond New Terra." Zoe nodded, still processing how her personal trauma had become a galactic turning point. On their way home, they passed the Colonial Administration Building. The plaza that had been filled with protesters was now the site of a different gathering. Humans and Maverians worked together, installing a new monument. The metal and crystal structure caught the light, sending rainbow patterns across the plaza. "What's that?" Zoe asked. It's a unity monument, her mother explained. A symbol of justice and cooperation between our species. The colonial government and the Mavarian Council commissioned it together. As they watched, the workers completed the installation. Water began flowing over the crystal elements, creating a gentle, musical sound. At the base, a plaque bore words in both human and Mavarian languages. Justice knows no boundaries of species, color, or origin. Through accountability, we grow stronger together. Zoe stood looking at the monument, emotions conflicting within her. The incident that had caused her pain had also created something positive. It was difficult to reconcile the two realities. A Mavarian approached them, moving with the fluid grace characteristic of her species. Zoe recognized diplomat Sil Nara, whose testimony had been crucial in Bradley's trial. Young mathematician, Sil Nara greeted Zoe. It brings joy to see you healing. Thank you for what you did, Zoe replied. For being a witness. Sil Nara's skin rippled with colors expressing humility. I simply shared truth. It was your human Captain Hernandez who ensured justice happened swiftly. She looked at the monument, then back at Zoe. From painful events, new understanding grows. Your experience has opened doors between worlds. As they continued their conversation, a news drone captured footage of the human girl and the Mavarian diplomat talking beside the Unity Monument. The image would be broadcast across the galaxy, a powerful symbol of the changes taking place. 6 months passed since the incident that changed Zoe Washington's life. The seasons shifted on New Terra, bringing warm summer breezes to Capital City. In the Grand Hall of the Interstellar Academy of Sciences, hundreds of beings from different worlds gathered for the annual Young Innovator Symposium. Zoe stood at the presentation platform, her dark skin contrasting with the white formal uniform worn by all presenters. At 16, she was the youngest speaker at the event. Her neural port, now fully healed, connected to the Academy's systems as she prepared to share her work. Today I present my theorem on quantum communication pathways, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. This work combines traditional human mathematical approaches with Mavarian quantum principles. The audience watched with interest. In the front row sat her parents, Richard and Diane Washington, their faces filled with pride. Beside them were Captain Alicia Hernandez, who had ensured swift justice, and diplomat Sil Nara, who had been a crucial witness. Zoe's hands moved gracefully as she displayed the complex equations. My neural injury 6 months ago forced my brain to create new pathways for mathematical thinking. This unexpected change led me to see patterns I might have missed before. The holographic display showed her equations, a beautiful blend of human and Mavarian mathematical systems. The result is a new approach to faster-than-light communication. By understanding how quantum particles maintain connection across vast distances, we can create stable communication channels that work regardless of distance. As she explained her breakthrough, the audience leaned forward in their seats. Representatives from multiple species took notes. When she finished her presentation, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. After the symposium, scientists from different worlds surrounded Zoe, asking questions and offering collaboration opportunities. The Seoul Academy's director personally invited her to begin her studies early with a full scholarship. Your work bridges species in more ways than one, the director told her. We need more minds like yours that can see beyond traditional boundaries. Later that evening, a special reception was held in the Colonial Administration Building. Governor Porter raised a glass in toast. To Zoe Washington, whose brilliant mind not only recovered from injury, but emerged stronger, and to the new era of cooperation her experience has helped create. Captain Hernandez approached Zoe during the reception. How does it feel to have turned such a painful experience into something positive? Zoe considered the question carefully. Mixed, to be honest. I still have nightmares sometimes, but knowing that something good came from it helps. Your case changed our colony's approach to justice, Hernandez said. We've implemented new training programs for all officers, with special focus on cross-species understanding and eliminating bias. Complaints of excessive force are down 80%. Across the room, diplomat Sil Nara spoke with Richard and Diane Washington. "I have news to share," she said, her skin shifting to pleased purple tones. "The Mavarian High Council has appointed me as official ambassador to Earth. I leave next week." "That's wonderful news," Diane replied warmly. "Earth will benefit from your wisdom." The swift justice delivered in Zoe's case has become a model for other worlds, Sil Nara explained. Several species have adopted similar accountability measures. The concept is spreading across the galaxy. Meanwhile, in the rehabilitation facility outside Capital City, Keith Bradley sat in his small room. On his desk lay books about Mavarian culture and history. His walls displayed artwork created by children of different species, part of his prejudice deprogramming. A counselor named Maria Rivera entered for their weekly session. "How are you progressing with your studies, Keith?" Bradley looked up from his reading. "I never knew how much the Mavarians suffered before finding their current homeworld. Their history of displacement is similar to many human groups." "And how does that knowledge affect your previous views?" Maria asked. "It makes me ashamed," Bradley admitted. "I carried old prejudices from Earth to the stars. It took hurting a child to make me see that." "Recognition is the first step to change," Maria said. "Your case has become required study for all new officers. Your mistakes are helping prevent others from following the same path." Bradley nodded slowly. "I heard Zoe Washington presented at the Science Symposium today. Her work might revolutionize space communication." "Yes. Despite what happened, she's thriving." "Good," Bradley said quietly. "At least something positive came from my failure." Across the galaxy on Earth, the grand chamber of the Galactic Parliament buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 27 species had gathered for a historic occasion. Representative Gregory Stewart took the podium. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic cooperation," he announced. "For the first time, 4 major civilizations, humans, Mavarians, Arcturians, and the Proxima Confederation, will sign a comprehensive alliance treaty." The leaders of each civilization approached the central table where the treaty waited. The human president, Mavarian High Counselor Vernox, Arcturian Grand Observer Zilla, and Proxima Ambassador Krizitk stood side by side. This treaty, known as the New Terra Accord, establishes shared principles of justice, scientific cooperation, and mutual defense, Stewart explained. "It represents a level of trust between our species that seemed impossible just 1 year ago." High Counselor Vernox spoke as the signing began. A single incident on New Terra became the catalyst for this moment. When a human child suffered injustice, human authorities acted with unexpected speed and clarity. This showed us that humans could indeed rise above their troubled history. The treaty was signed with ceremonial instruments from each culture. As the final signature was applied, applause filled the chamber. That same evening, Zoe sat on a bench in the New Terra Botanical Gardens. The Unity Monument sparkled nearby in the setting sun. She had needed some quiet time away from the excitement of the day. Captain Hernandez found her there and sat beside her. "Your parents said I might find you here. Needed some space?" Zoe nodded. "It's a lot to process. My theorem, the Academy invitation, now this treaty that people keep connecting to what happened to me." "How do you feel about that connection?" Hernandez asked gently. "I never asked to be a symbol," Zoe said, "but if what happened to me helped create something better, then maybe it gives meaning to the pain." She looked up at the darkening sky, where the first stars were becoming visible. "I'm going to focus on my work now. The mathematics is what matters most to me." "That's as it should be," Hernandez agreed. "You deserve to live your life for yourself, not as a symbol." As they walked back toward the city, they passed other humans and Mavarians walking together, talking and laughing. In 6 months, the interactions between species had become more natural, more trusting. "Humanity isn't perfect," Hernandez said, observing the mixed groups. "We still have our flaws. But at least we proved we can recognize our mistakes and correct our course with remarkable speed." Zoe smiled slightly. In their swift response to cruelty, We saw their greatest potential. That was what Ambassador Silnara had said in her report to the Mavarian Council. The quote had become famous across the galaxy. As New Terra's 3 moons rose in the night sky, Zoe looked forward to the future, her studies, her work, and a galaxy more united than before. From one moment of cruelty had come swift justice, and from justice had come understanding that crossed the stars.